Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Show Up with Christine Chang podcast. I have a very handsome mug in the studio today. It's his second time on the show. It's Kevin Kreider.
It's me.
The last time you were in here, you were single.
Yes.
A lot has changed since then.
A lot has.
You are in a serious relationship.
It's very serious. Very serious.
With Devon. I love Devon.
Thank you.
I love her for you. I think she's a really good fit for you.
Tell me why.
Why? She's patient.
How'd you know that?
She's very patient with you.
How did you know that?
I think Kevin and I are similar in certain ways. I think we need a patient partner.
For sure.
If you want peace in the relationship, and it's not that we take advantage of the relationship, but it's certain personality types.
Yeah.
It does, I'll be honest, like I require a patient partner, and I love that about Pete.
Do you feel bad for Pete because he has to be so patient with you?
Sometimes I feel, because I value fairness, but I also, people are just different. Things that would bother me might not bother him. So sometimes I think like, oh, should I be as patient with him as he is with me? And I try my best.
Yeah.
But the truth is our personalities are just different. And he's not sensitive in that way at all. Thank God. Otherwise,
Yeah.
that would be that would be.
Oh, no, trust me. Like, I think that's maybe the difference between the patients. Devon and I are both very sensitive people. I mean, and it comes from, I believe, us both being artists. Like, we're both creatives. She's a singer, actor, model, and I'm obviously entrepreneur, actor, all that kind of stuff. But, like, we're both very sensitive people. So her patience tolerance is right here.
Okay.
Her sensitivity level, I believe, is right here as well.
Okay.
My sensitivity is very similar, but my patience is very low. So we have to meet in the middle, I find, a lot of times. And by the way, this is shit that I'm like learning now. I mean, no amount of TikTok videos I read or videos like really prepare you in a sense of like once you're in it, you're like, oh shit, this is what people are talking about. Oh, wow, this is a lot harder than I thought it would be.
Oh, totally. That's why it's easy for single people to give like logical advice.
Yes.
But when you're emotionally triggered,
Yes.
when you're in a relationship and they're like a mirror for
Yes.
you.
I think from now on, I will never listen. I've always been told don't listen to a single person in relationships, but I especially now know don't listen to single people in relationships.
Totally. I mean,
Yeah.
you listen to people who have the result that you want.
100%. I had somebody who was trying to give me relationship advice, and I was like, dude, you're single, you stay in your room all day, and you look at TikTok videos. Why are you trying to give me relationship advice?
Totally.
Like, it was just really kind of bizarre to me. I was like, wow, I feel like I'm really back in like grade school,
Yeah, I think there's a self-awareness aspect to that maybe some people, maybe their intentions are usually good, right? But and by the way, there's nothing wrong with being single. I think being single is amazing. It's fun, but at the same time, unless you're in it, or maybe if you've been married before and you're divorced, like divorced people are very wise, and there's a lot of lessons that's been learned. And so
Right.
a lot of times I do want to hear, what have you learned? And they've had the experience of being with someone for years,
Right.
decades. So they know the emotional, all those little things that stack up, which might not seem like a big deal to some who aren't in it. Like, what's the big deal? She just did this. Have you experienced living with someone for 7 years and those little things irk you?
Yeah, yeah. And like, I just find there's so much information vomit from a lot of people. Like, it's just like single people. and I just find that what I'm finding now through my experience is like, it's great if you have that information, but it's way better if you're actually experiencing living it, and you've lived it.
Two different things.
Very different. It's kind of like reading how to make the best pie in the world, but you've never even gone grocery shopping before.
Yeah.
Or made a pie.
Yeah.
Like, sure, you can word vomit it, but I mean, did you really do it?
Totally.
You might be giving me a wrong ingredient from like 1800s.
Totally. I'm all about asking people who have the result
Yes.
that you want.
Yes.
I think that's a pretty
So you're saying
way.
for me, I need more patience. I mean, I definitely think I do.
I think patience serves most people
Yeah.
well, right? But it probably, being impatient gives you a sense of urgency and your entrepreneurial drive,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, I agree 100%. I mean, like when I came back from, I'll give you an example where we're different, me and Devon. When we came back from the Philippines, it was 10 days of total film promo, dinners, going to the theaters, doing Q&A. It was intense, right? Like some days we would start at 4 a.m., not finish till 11 p.m. some days. Then we come back jet lagged and exhausted. I had like a half a day and I was ready to go because I was so impatient. I just want to get things done and all that. But then she's just like, hey, can we just take 48 hours? Like, you deserve it. We deserve it for our relationship. And I'm like, getting angst, you know? So, like, part of me is like, I mean, what would you do in that situation? I guess is a good question.
I would say you do you. If you want to rest, you can rest, but I'm going to go.
Yeah. Now, this is the thing that complicates our relationship, too. We do work together.
That's why I don't work with people.
It's hard. It's hard. We got work stuff.
I know there's beauty in working together. There's that trust and that mutual support.
Yeah.
But I'm not against working with Pete. I like actually that we do different things and we're pretty independent. So
Yeah.
you do you.
Well, it's funny because I think most of our arguments only come from work stuff.
Work stuff.
That's it.
I've been fighting with my dad about work stuff.
You work with your dad?
I do help him. so, so my dad has a biotech company in Silicon Valley.
Okay.
And I used to work there and like growing up on and off. And it's been like a boundaries issue. My dad and I have a fantastic relationship. The only time we fight, and lately it's been really bad, is work stuff.
Work stuff. See, same with us. So we're adjusting. We have one rule, which is no work talk at all
That's smart.
after 8 p.m.
Yeah, that's smart.
After 8 p.m.
That could be hard though when
It's
work's
hard.
your life.
It is. But here's the thing, too. We've even added this factor. So we observe, it's not official Shabbat, but we have one day of rest, right? And we turn off our phones. We don't try to do any work stuff, or I mean, sometimes it happens, but like we observe that and we just like we shut off. We try our best to. For me, it's probably one of the most difficult things to do.
Totally.
Then on top of that, we used to have a day, once a day, just schedule a couple hours for us to get together and just talk about work, right? So that didn't work, but it's
Okay.
because it was too many days. Like, what are we really gonna do when we're in development, right? Like, there's nothing to do until we get into production and all that stuff. So it's really challenging when you have that many days. And we decided, hey, you know what? We should just have 2 days to start off with. Make it not insurmountable, right? And then that's where we do all our work stuff. For example, like today, we have a few things we got to talk about work. So after this, we'll have our meeting at 3:00. That's been, I'm hopeful, but it's like all of these things, it's like adjusting and seeing what works, but like being patient that like, oh, it is getting better. Maybe we just got to do more of these things, you know?
Yeah, I think it comes with experience the more that you do. And I feel it's a forever work in progress and adjustment. There's the initial years, right, where you're getting the groove. But if you value growth and there's always different projects or things you've never tackled together, there is a learning curve. And the couples I've spoken to who are married and work together have said it takes years to really get those boundaries in place and where to let go, being clear on the roles, who does what, respecting if someone has is in charge of something, just say they're the 51%. You don't question that. You have to respect that. Let them do it, and then it's almost like a playing with power dynamics and
Totally, because it's like, it's weird living together and having access to your business partner and work partner and your lover at the same time, because like my thoughts go 1,000 miles per hour. I'll just say stuff that like just comes out, and I'm like, I don't even know if it's work stuff. It's just a thought, you know.
Right, right.
And then she's just like, I didn't even get out of bed yet.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like you don't normally do that to a CFO or a business partner or an ops person, you know. Like it's very different. You know, you have your meetings. If you did that with them, it's totally different dynamic.
Totally.
Yeah. So it's. I think that's where our, like you said, boundaries. We have to put more up. And we're finding we have to as time goes on. You know, we didn't just put it all in place right away. It's like over time, one argument comes out because of this. We're like, oh, okay, we should put boundaries up now for
Yeah.
this.
Total learning curve. Pete and I, it took years. I've matured a lot since meeting him. It's funny, I was looking at our wedding pictures the other day. We got married 6 years ago, and I feel like such a different person.
It's weird. I don't know you before that, actually. I only know you as the mature.
Yeah, but I've matured a lot, and my way of being is actually different. I always thought I would be the person like, yeah, I'm not going to change who I am after I get married. But there are things that I do that I show up differently.
Yeah.
Different,
Like what?
For example, like on a podcast, I have another podcast called Not Your Asian Women with a comedian. Her name is Shining.
Oh, I've seen that. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah, we're more raunchy. It's more
Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
And she's married as well, but she's a comedian. She's completely unfiltered, and she wants to talk about like our sex lives, evolution of sex lives, previous partners, and for me, I want to respect Pete, and there's certain things that I kind of flip it around. Like, would I want him blasting to the world certain things, right? I do value freedom and self-expression, but there is someone else to consider. And that is a huge adjustment from single
Right.
life, that you have to consider someone else. And a lot of people, they don't want to, and maybe that's why they're single.
Yeah. Or
It's
you
not
become
easy.
Howard Stern and air everything, and then you eventually get a divorce, you know?
Yeah, you find what works for you. Everyone's different, but I noticed for me, I didn't respect Pete fully in the beginning. I just didn't realize the impact that some of my actions would have on him. For example, I'm on social media pretty frequently, and I would do my Insta stories. He's not on social media at all because he's smart. But I would film him like doing funny things or just sleeping because I thought it was cute.
I saw you sleeping one time.
Yes,
I thought it was great.
It's cute, right? And people
didn't like it?
they like it, but he's not a complainer. But I realize he wouldn't choose that for himself. So now I ask. I definitely ask, like, hey, can I post this if I really like it? And I've gotten no's before, and I won't post it. I'm like,
Gotcha.
that's not cool because this life, I'm asking for it.
Right.
A public figure. He's not asking for that. And one time, like, people would go into his work and like wave at him. And he's totally not used to that. He was just like, they were like, oh, I saw you on Christine's Insta story. He's not choosing that life. And as you know, I mean, you have fame now. It's different, right?
Yeah, and I guess that part's easier, right? For us, we don't.
Because you choose it, and
We
maybe
choose it,
you might
yes.
enjoy it to a certain degree. But I don't think I personally don't think it's fair to our family and close circle if they're not choosing it to exploit them in that way.
Yeah, and I think Devon and I have a good, healthy mindset on socials and doing those things. We truly see it as work. This is our work. Like, this isn't us, although it can be tough when there's trolls or like something happens. Yeah, of course, we're human. But from the beginning, we've always said, well, this is where the attention's going. This is where our fans are going to be. Let's give them the thing that they're looking at. Like, if it weren't for social media, like, first of all, I think way less arguments would happen with couples. Two, for me, I know for a fact we wouldn't be on it. I mean, I am more like traditional, I guess, TV movie person. Like, I like this thing. You know, it's put in place. It's professional. It's like a conversation, but yet a podcast, video podcast. We're not used to this running gun, like, hey, let's do videos. Let's just be the funny person or just, the self-help person. Like, we're not used to that. So when it comes to socials, we look at it as pure business marketing. And obviously, if you really like us, even better. For us, that's where I think we have a good mindset and we work well as a couple.
I do admire couples that work together, and I like, because you're just heading in the same direction.
Yeah.
Even before you guys met, you're both in entertainment,
Oh,
right?
totally. When we both first met, I'm glad because, look, I get the platform to be able to share the stories, but it's always from my side. Like, people don't hear her side. 8, 10 years ago, she was what we call the shiny object. I mean, she was hitting these movies that I've never, I mean, believe it or not, like she was scoring one of A24's first movies ever. And she was going to the red carpets. She was the one working, getting commercials, like the agents and jobs and auditions. And I was like the guy just trying to find an agent again, like, and she got me an agent and helped me with my career and stuff. And she booked me for one of her first features and shorts and stuff like that. It was crazy, right? So she was helping me, and I was the one learning, and we both believed in what we were trying to do. We were really trying to elevate and uplift Asian talent in America. I still, like, we still see it today. Like, there's much work to do, which is why we're working together again. But we loved each other for our dreams. We loved each other for, hey, you know what? We are nothing right now, but you are going to ride with me on this journey. Just be, Devon will say this, just be nice to each other, But it's like, sometimes you argue and it gets mean, and that
Totally.
makes it really hard now. But it's like, the thing is we have so much love for each other that we understand that we're trying, we're growing together. And now it's reversed. It's like I have the attention, and I think what's really challenging for me and her is to share, like, yo, she's actually probably more talented than I am. Not at speaking. Like, I'm a great speaker compared to a lot of like other people I know. I love speaking, and that's just something I do. I mean, you can disagree with me if you want, but I like to speak. She's not the talker, And like people just don't see all the talent she has just because she didn't hit the luck to get on that platform so early like me, And it's been tough with Bling being canceled, and she just never got a chance while we were here to get a platform yet. Exactly. And so like I think for what people don't realize is like, naturally she's just more artistic and talented. The girl has never taken a singing lesson in her life, and can sing in front of like corporate people. But I think that's where we struggle, is that like back then it was this power dynamic. Now it's reversed. But I think what makes us stronger is like, hey, I remember when I was like this, when we were like this, Now we get a chance to fulfill our dreams because not only am I sober, but it's like I'm more mentally stable. I'm not suffering through my addiction anymore. So it's like we actually have a shot. So that's where we're at right now with that. It's just like, man, I just would love to see her just thrive in what we're doing,
I love that. Okay, so for anyone who doesn't know, Kevin and Devon, they dated years ago.
Yep.
When was that? 8 years ago.
8
They
years ago.
broke up.
Well, no, fuck, it's longer now. It's 9 or 10 now.
Okay, this was on the East Coast, right?
Yes, East Coast.
And then broke up.
Yes.
And then you eventually got back together. Mm-hmm. And this was, they kind of incorporated it into Bling Empire, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So in case anyone doesn't know Kevin here, he was on a show called Bling Empire. And I'm sure people want to know, like, was that real? Did you guys just get back together for the show? Did you get that question?
We hear that question a lot. I don't want to ruin people's fantasies on things, but let's just say that Devon and I
want to take a minute to talk about my favorite instant coffee company, Strong Coffee Company. There's a bunch of healthy ingredients inside, like collagen, MCT oil, L-theanine, and neurofactor. So that means extreme focus, no crash, no jitters, and it's also instant. You just add water, so it's really, really quick. They have a few different flavors, but my personal favorite is this one. It is the cacao. The other ones are hazelnut, vanilla, and they have just regular, like, black drip coffee. If you're interested in giving them a try, use code Christine Chang at checkout for 15% off.
Whether the show would have happened or not, we would have gotten back together.
Okay.
Let's just keep it at that.
Okay.
'Cause like I said, I don't want to ruin fantasy for people. But I would say that another reason why I got back in touch with her is because 10 years ago, I really was struggling with alcoholism. And it was something that I've always struggled with. Didn't believe it could affect me or I was an alcoholic just because I'm Asian. That's what we do. And there's no Asian alcoholics, apparently. There is, though. Surprise, right? And what I learned is like through going through recovery, 12 steps, it's like I had to heal. I had to figure out. I mean, 12. If you want the ultimate self-help, 12-step
I've heard
recovery
this.
is the ultimate self-help.
I have heard this.
I mean, even the Dalai Lama says the 12 steps are God's greatest gift to humans. And that has nothing to, he's not even an alcoholic. I even think like it's the ultimate self-help, even beyond all the paid programs that you can do. 'Cause look, I've done all of them. And only 12-step recovery has helped. Anything. And I do believe it goes beyond addiction because 12 steps go into like things like Al-Anon. It goes into like gambling, goes into like other things like money, debt, all that stuff. So I think it transcends beyond just addiction. But through recovery, I got better and I started to see things more clearly. And then, they say the fog is lifted for a reason. Now I remember the one person that was always with me, like I've always thought about her, even through the successes and failures, because I'm like, man, Devon and I, we should be here together. Like no other girl deserves to be here other than her. It was really alcoholism, myself, that really had this chaotic relationship with Devon, because she's very stable, very like, cool. I'm the chaotic one. And so becoming less chaotic and at least sober and the tools to handle my chaos, we've been able to have a nice second chance. And, I'm really committed. Like besides my career, I've never been committed to something so much in my life.
I was going to ask, have you had previous long-term relationships?
She was one of my longest. And like I said, 9-month mark, alcoholism picks back up and just messes you up. But I also, look, I'm 40 now. Like I'm like you said, more mature, more wisdom, more life experiences, But I'm definitely not one of those people that just, like I said in the past, of this podcast, I don't just sit around watching stuff and then just word vomiting it. It's like I've experienced it. I'm still experiencing it. And I'm now applying it to my relationship, right? Like the patience, not trying to compete against each other or one-up each other. I'm trying my best to listen, even though I have a bunch of things going through my head all the time. It's still hard for me, She and I always have to constantly be reminded, like, beyond just alcoholism, like I have Tourette syndrome, too.
You do?
Yeah, so it's
that.
it's medium to mild case. I was diagnosed when I was really young.
Okay.
I was on medication for it, but I fell asleep in class. So all my tics came up a lot. But like the only thing that really helped me was sports. So working out, physical activity. Okay. So all the tics started to subside a little bit more, way more. I learned how to be able to control it, a lot more. I was naturally just not really a sugar addict, but then I got rid of a lot of sugar in my life. And I noticed a lot of those stuff, creeping back up when too much sugar or too much stress in my life or excitability. That's why I also have to watch my caffeine intake, even though I love caffeine. Okay. So a lot of the impulses that happen with Tourette syndrome is real. It's like sometimes it's like, when they say hold your tongue, it's like, but me naturally, it doesn't always work. So where her patience comes in for her, it's like, hey, look, a lot of people say you're not responsible for the first thought. It's the action. It's like, well, sometimes I don't feel responsible for the first thought because it just comes out. The bleh happens faster than my thought, So it's a real thing, but I don't have it to such an extreme where I'm just on a podcast going, fuck! You know what I mean? It's like I don't have that. I'm not an extreme. I'm more mild to medium.
Okay.
Still have it. So she and I have to always be reminded, it's like even though I look and appear very normal, I still have it. And it's like, it still comes up. I mean, but you don't see it because I've learned how to just.
I mean, do you do it more with her because you feel safe with her too?
No, I do it more with her because she's around me 24/7.
Okay.
It's easy for me to control it in this hour, 2 hours, whatever, not, being with you, being in a social setting. It's when you're around somebody 24/7, the real you comes out. It's like, oh, well, she sees my facial expressions, my tics on my face, she doesn't say anything anymore, but it's just become like a normal part of me. When I'm at home, just in contemplation or my thoughts or just being myself or something like arousal happens, not sexually. I mean, I get excited or passionate or angry or something, or I'm watching a movie, she sees those parts of me, but sometimes it also comes with some negatives. It's like sometimes, happens and it's like, you don't mean to. It's like, oh shit, but I'm still learning that because it is something I know I can control, or I've been fortunate enough to not have a extreme Tourette syndrome where I can control a lot of it. So that's something we work with together too. And I have no idea where I'm going with this part, but it was just a thing in relationships that I think people overlook. And I have to constantly sometimes remind her too, I'd be like, hey, look, I'm not excusing what I said or my actions, but why you think I might be doing this is because and it just comes out faster, and it's like, because that's just what happens. It's almost like trying to do a head movement, The head movement happens before I can even think about it sometimes,
Okay. One of my best friends, April. And,
Yeah.
And she, actually, what I really like about both of you, and maybe I haven't seen what Devon sees, but that you're real. Like what you say, I can tell things you've said to me is truthful and is maybe not the softest, like it won't land the softest, but it makes me trust someone more.
Oh, I know April too. Yeah, she has a little bit of unfilteredness
and she
too.
she says that it's really hard for her to control as well. And sometimes I do get really annoyed. I'm like, was that necessary? But she's like, I can't help it. And she said she's working on it. And I've noticed a difference. We've been friends for over 20 years. I notice a difference now. But she said, she's like, I have a really hard time not saying it. But at the same time, I love it about her because it makes me trust her. Yeah. It's what you see is what you get. I don't like the people who, like, when it's too controlled, I'm like, what are you actually thinking right now?
Right,
I can't relate to that.
Yeah, there's curses to it. There's whatever. It's like, but I think if, like, for instance, me and April were together, man, that'd be ugly. You definitely shouldn't have two people in a relationship like that. It should be somebody very normal like Devon who can control it. But then I feel bad for somebody like Devon or anybody because it's like, man, they got to deal with a lot of shit with me, Like, and I know, look, we both have shit we both got to deal with.
Yeah.
But I definitely know mine is a handful. I mean, there's a reason why I've been single for so long. It does take a special person at a special time in my life to be with me. And I knew that, And look, I was actually okay with being single for the rest of my life for a while. And then Devon showed back up in my life. I'm like, oh, okay, great. Thank you, God. I get a second chance.
Yes. And I remember the last time you were on the podcast, you said you wanted to be in a relationship.
Yeah.
And you had complained kind of about dating. Like, I'm just tired of this whole dating thing. I just want to meet the person and be in the relationship.
Totally. It's much easier to date when you're not in the public eye than when you are. So it's like, I mean, obviously a lot of people probably know that, but I've lived it. And it's like, I saw what it was like dating, especially in LA, without being in the public eye. And then all of a sudden you are. I mean, the type of girls are very different that show up in your life.
What kind of girls started showing
I mean, a lot of type of girls. Well, Guy Tang type of girls, that show up in his chair, those type of girls. And, like, they're beautiful, but they're not, it doesn't feel grounded. There's something about Devon that just feels so grounded.
Is she from Boston?
She's from Boston.
Okay. I feel in general, East Coast people, I've always gravitated towards them easier than West Coast, where sometimes shallow, so shallow, no depth.
Yeah.
And when people say fake, To some degree, some people are fake here.
Well, yeah, and the thing is that I think is it's funny. It's like, okay, do you want to be stabbed in the front or in the back? And I find it's just a lot of backstabbing here.
Yeah.
Whereas at least in the East Coast, they'll do it in the front.
Yes.
And so that's what I find here. It's like, Devon said a lot of things that were really crazy, like true, actually, crazy true. And I didn't believe it until I started to look back on my life in the last 3 years. And she brought up a good point. She's like, you know what? Nobody here in LA wants to commit. And it's not even relationships, it's work. She's used to, and so am I. I'm used to this too, but I've been here a little bit longer, where people on the East Coast, you don't have to go to dinner for somebody to represent you or work out a business deal or whatever it's that people just want to do or not. People here say they want to. They don't commit, though. They keep their doors wide open and don't commit. You have no idea how many people we meet 24/7, and they always want to do something. They say they're going to do it, but the time comes, nothing happens.
Yeah.
And I guess the East Coast side of me is like, well, we just do things, like we work, we do things, say we're going to show up to a podcast, we do. You say you're going to start a podcast, you do, and it's been great. It's been over, 2 years or something, and it's thriving, and it's great. It's like, so I just find it's a very different mentality, and I don't know which one's better.
I mean, everything
Or
that comes with a
worse.
flip side, right?
Yeah, and I think what I've just learned here is, and what I'm still learning is, don't overdo and over commit. Be committed. Do what you say, but don't overdo it. Because then I find what ends up happening is people just let you do it. And they won't commit because they're like, oh, well, Kevin's going to do it anyway. So why do I have to do anything?
Right.
Yeah,
Boundaries.
Boundaries, for sure. Even in work stuff.
Okay, I'd love to talk more about your sobriety and your new drink, Sans, because I was at your event recently at Ranch 99 in Arcadia.
Yeah.
I was so proud of you.
Thank you,
I was
thank
so proud of
you.
you because I saw the fridge stacked up.
Yeah, it
Your
was really
product is in the fridge there. And there was a lot of people who showed up who wanted to see you.
Yeah, it's a proud Asian moment. If my parents were Asian, they would be even more proud of me. My mom would probably be more proud if it was like stored in like Whole Foods or Acme. She doesn't know 99 Ranch very well. But I look, there's so many good things that happen from this beverage. There's so many horrific things that are just like, as an entrepreneur, we all deal with. I think being more in the public eye brings a lot more chaos as a sole founder. I think if I were to do this over again, I would have had a co-founder and somebody who was really good at finance, business, so they could deal with a lot of the things that I have to deal with right now. Because obviously, the great combination of, I think, a lot of co-founders are, one likes to be in the public eye, attract, do the marketing, and the other person likes to do the business things. For instance, if somebody wants to come in and invest in our company in Sons, it goes through my business partner, right? I attract it, it goes through the business partner. But what I find a lot of times is sometimes people who want to invest say they want to invest, but they actually just want to have time with me, and that's it. Show up, have a selfie, show off to their friends, maybe even say, hey, I'm doing something with Kevin, and by the way, they're not planning on doing anything. They're just going to fulfill their plan, their agenda, right? So you get a lot of that. And if I had a true business partner, that person would have been able to filter it, screen things, get the investment money, and then we kind of just do our thing then.
Is it too late to bring on a number two?
Yes and no. Look, the beverage landscape has changed so much in the last 2 years because of the economy, inflation, all this stuff, interest rates, like all these things that I never would say as like an entertainment person. But like being in business, it's like it's a real thing. It affects people. Gas prices affect beverage because of the weight. Now, to get into the beverage landscape, I mean, you need to be very well venture backed before you even start. The problem that we ran into is we didn't complete funding. weren't even close.
Okay.
We had to spend a lot of money on legal stuff as well. We also had to deal with increase in prices for everything. We had to deal with a lot of bullshit that like normal founders don't have to deal with. I'm not saying mine's better or worse. I know other founders have other things, but now it's like, beverage has to be $5-10 million venture backed or backed, to begin with. And by the way, you're not making money.
Right. I've heard with beverage, it's minimum 7 years
Minimum.
to start being profitable.
Yeah, maybe even 5 years for the exceptional ones that started 5 years ago. I'm telling you now, though, if you were to start, I wouldn't get into it even if somebody paid me again. I mean, I will actually if somebody paid me, sure. But like,
We all have.
yeah,
we all
look,
have
but
our
I haven't made a
amount.
single dollar from this. I've
Right.
only put money in, but I've stopped putting money in because I'm like, you know what? It's not enough like the millions that could help it to grow. So like we're steady, and the lie of beverages, all of them aren't. And then the whole plan is kind of like,
Yep.
oh, we'll saturate the market and we'll pull back on marketing. That's where our profits will come in. It's like, well, then there's going to be somebody else who's coming in with more money at the time. and
Yeah.
doing that. So,
So funny.
yeah.
How people assume. I used to assume if I saw beverages in stores, like, oh, they're in Whole Foods, they're in Costco, they're successful. And
Nope.
I think we assume a lot when we see those things.
Yeah, look, I was part of this coffee company and they went down, just recently, and they were actually growing. Every challenge is different. One of our biggest challenges, and it's a real thing, is that without me involved, the business doesn't really stand on its own.
Right.
That's something we found out. We always knew that though, but we always thought by this time around we would have at least filled our small, very small pre-seed round for beverage, could have had a CEO, could have had a proper CMO to actually work on this and have some marketing money to actually start spending. Because
Yeah.
we haven't spent any on marketing. It's all been driving through me. So the thing is, though, like, it can't always just depend on me because that's not a real business.
Right.
So that's why it's like, we're no Logan Paul who got to have a distribution deal right away and, they did everything. He just does all the marketing. It's not been like that for me, So I do recommend a lot of entrepreneurs out there who are so in the public eye. Don't do it unless you got a real business partner and you're backed and you have some distribution right away and you got a unique idea. Sans, on that one hand, was a unique idea 2.5 years ago when we first started, but now there's hundreds of non-alcoholic alternatives right now, beverage space. And so it's a lot tougher now, even in that time period. And we didn't have the marketing dollars to really go fast forward like we wanted to. We had to really go super slow because we just didn't have the money.
Yeah. Sometimes I think that's better, though. I don't know. I personally like slow and steady. I don't know. Maybe that's all I know. I just watch my. It's what I watch. Excuse me. I watched my parents build 2 companies, and it's safer, maybe not as sexy, but they made really good money through the years just being slow and steady, and I think it's more reliable.
Yes. Look, I only know from beverage. I think for me and Devon with our production company, slow and steady is great. We also don't need any money to start off with it. But to start off, obviously we're going to need money to actually produce our stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like to start off, sure, yeah, it's great. Beverage is a tricky thing because each month that goes by, not only does your product get old,
Right.
you're closer to having to get rid of it, but also you have to pay for storage. You have to pay for getting it somewhere, and it's heavy. This, for how much it weighs,
Yeah.
you could send clothes.
Right.
Whole suit somewhere.
Right.
Just for one can.
Yeah.
And then the margins just don't make sense. So it's a very weird, different business where, sure, you can, but most companies don't do that well unless it's pretty fast trajectory growth.
Okay.
Yeah, beverage is it's one of the, if not the toughest space to be in CPG.
Oh my God. Yeah. If people ask me if I'm investing my money, the 2 last things I would invest in is movies and anything with like restaurant or food
Right.
or
Wow.
consumption.
I mean, like, look.
You have to love it.
Yeah.
I think you really have to love it for the risk, for the amount of work, for the amount of moving parts.
Well, that's the thing too. So we're Asian. We come from this mindset of very low risk to begin with. When it comes to movies, entertainment, we also don't come from generational wealth, right? Like when I mean generational wealth, I mean like, the Cartier family or something, right? Like we don't come from that. The people that fund the arts and entertainment come from generational wealth. They have a good, nice soil laid out where they're like, hey, if I lose $10 million on a movie, who cares?
It's probably more for lifestyle that they do it, right?
It's lifestyle, and they like the arts.
Okay.
They like film. They like expression. They like
Do they-
seeing people succeed or
Do they
give
get to
people.
write off?
It's a write-off too.
It is a
It is a
write-off?
write-off.
Even
of
for
course.
commercial films?
Even for commercial films,
okay.
it could be a write-off. I think us as Asians, we're so new to the Hollywood space and access to it that they go in pure business where they're like, I need a guaranteed return. How can you guarantee it? Well, if you would have asked the white Jewish, funders on Broadway and TV and film, they'd be like, hey, it's a great shot. We definitely know, but we're funding the arts, because the arts is what makes the world go. Like if people don't understand how the arts works, I'll show you how impactful it is. After Crazy Rich Asians happened, do you know how
totally.
many of my Asian friends were all of a sudden getting laid?
Culture totally impacts.
So I definitely feel, and I don't mind saying this out loud, those tech guys, those entrepreneurs, those VCs who are now not having a hard time getting options, it's their responsibility to fund the arts because
Yeah.
it's so impactful.
Well, I think they need to understand that.
They don't understand it. They take it there. They feel like it just came. Oh, I'm just hitting my stride. No, motherfucker. The stride got hit because us as artists and the arts changed the perspective. Your app that came out didn't.
It's what, this is something I've learned more about in recent years because I'm typically not the person at the front of the protest lines. That's not how I support movements and things like that. And to some degree, I did not realize what an impact, like a lot of the reason that we live in the society we live in and I have the opportunities I have is because a lot of people paved the way. They did fight for certain things,
Totally.
right? So my previous attitude of like, what's the big deal? Stop being annoying, or it has its place.
Yep.
And everyone helps differently, but I appreciate a lot more. I think in the beginning with fighting for Asians in entertainment, I did not realize the impact it would have until I saw Asians on the big screen, until I saw Crazy Rich Asians, and I realized how happy it made me and how that didn't exist growing up.
Totally.
I just kind of accepted like, oh, this is just Hollywood movies. They just cast certain people as, like the football player, whatever. It's just how it is. I grew up in white suburbia. But when I saw it, and then I saw other people in the theater who were not Asian wanting to watch the film, relating, laughing, crying, it made me feel so good. And so I think I've changed my perspective coming from a more tech background,
Totally.
practical background.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, why do you think Korea spent so much money in trying to create entertainment? I mean, that was intentional. They invested because they wanted internationally to see Korea, K-pop actually happen. It's very intentional. Here, I think we take it for granted because it's so new here to see Asians who are public figures and celebrities on Netflix, on movies, all that stuff. I think we all got excited and meshed, but becoming meshed also clouded the lines of, oh, this is just what happens. But it's actually not. Traditionally, ventures and people who back these types of things put money into it, to get access to Hollywood, just given away freely. But it hasn't come back to the entertainment for indies especially, because indies are where the real magic happens. We get to tell stories that studios don't want to take risks on, right?
Totally.
And so I think that's where the next venture has to be, because I just see that, look, we have so much opportunity, but like all these people are just so new to this. No one has a guideline. But that's what I've just seen in our entertainment space, is that when I talk to other Asian founders of entertainment, or these directors, or these owners of production companies, I asked them, like, how'd you get the money? How'd you get started off? It always came from a white person. The reason why is because they said they know the risk. They just say, you're a good person, you're talented. I see there's a possible ROI, but you know what? I believe in you. I won't let you fail. We don't have that here.
Yeah, well, I mean, what comes to mind is Asian parenting to me.
It's Asian parenting.
Wait,
yeah.
I mean, in general, right?
Yeah.
I would say white American parents tend to be a little more supportive. You can do it. Good job. I'm proud of you. Where me growing up, I never heard the words, I'm proud of you. It was almost more like, how can you improve this?
Right.
Criticism. And their intention is, again, usually good. They want you, to do well. But yeah, that's what comes to mind when
Totally.
you said that support, that kind of support is not a lot of Asians more traditionally are not familiar with that kind of support.
Totally. I mean, it's like, okay, look, I mean, a lot of these movies and studios, right? Like, sometimes they need money to finish it, but that's a good return. So a lot of Asians who will just invest in that's not really giving back to the arts, I guess. It's more like, because you can get a bank loan for that, if you need to finish a film that's studio backed and all that stuff and whatever. I mean, there's so many things that I've learned in this industry, but the real giving is somebody who's just starting off. Right, like I've seen a couple of people. I won't name because it was private conversations, but like, because I was like, hey man, how do we do this? Like, I got all this great stuff. I just need like this much, and it's so little. Like, my co-founder helped me a lot. Actually, he put up all the money to make it happen. Look, they're famous directors and producers now. Maybe I'm too idealistic. I'd love it if it was an Asian, but I'm not holding my breath to do it because I realize we don't want to do it. And it's like, okay, I'd hate to tell my story of, people always say, oh, it's the white savior mentality, white savior. Well, what if white people are really saving me all the time? Which they are.
I mean, I think that a lot of people get hung up on how, like, it's almost like controlling how ideally they'd like something to happen.
Yeah, but they don't want to do it.
Right, but then I think it's good to just focus on your end goal, and the how isn't as important, to stay open. As long as you're doing things within your value system, you're not breaking any laws, you're not hurting anybody. I think it's great to have allyship.
100%.
Why can't someone who's not Asian fund an Asian film? I think that's fantastic that they want to.
And it makes me wonder too, so like, for instance, Devon and I, right? Like, first of all, people don't know this about Devon, but she's a true fob. Like, immigrant, fresh off the boat.
Well, she met my mom and they were speaking Vietnamese.
Yeah, well, she literally, her and her family literally escaped Vietnam as a
she was
child.
born over
She
there.
was born in Vietnam. Didn't speak English until she was like 10 or 11, whatever. Like, when I say whatever, I don't really remember her age. I'm not here to tell her story like that, but like, she's a true first generation, like, immigrant. Like, she came over here, right? She found her way. I'm kind of first generation, but not really. Like, I'm adopted by white people. Sometimes we feel like our stories aren't fobby enough to tell.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, like, have you gotten negative feedback from Asian community?
No, but we just haven't gotten anything. And, we see a lot of the things being made, and they're very fresh off the boat, immigrants. We're the foreigner still in Hollywood and media. Even the people that they choose to put on screen are very fobby, so it's like, it's a very like, sorry, it's true though, right?
The word fob just cracks me up.
But it's true though.
But actually growing up in high school, I don't know if you experienced this, but
And by the way, we need fob representation.
Oh, totally,
We do.
totally. But I think there's certain levels of like tribalism. I remember in high school, people would make fun of you if you weren't Asian enough.
Right,
Like,
right.
what? Your Chinese sucks. You don't speak. Almost to the point, I was like, what is this? Like, who cares?
True. Like for
I mean, kids
instance,
are
like
just
look,
dicks, too.
look,
It's-
all comedians are doing well in Asia. I mean, Asian American. You know, like they might not do so well in Asia though. You know, but I'm just saying, like I don't know. I don't know Asia well enough. I just know Asian TV well enough that what works here doesn't work over there. Same thing over in Asia might not work here.
Yeah.
But what really works here in Hollywood media is the stereotypical looking Asian guy or girl, non-threatening but funny. And that's what's working. That's what we get more of.
What about like the Netflix shows like Never Have I Ever and stuff like that? Isn't that
That's an interesting one because I think it's like it's the Asian woman that only likes white guys type of thing, or that's for all the boys. Never Have I Ever is actually really cool because it's telling somebody from the Indian perspective, liking all these guys. I know Anirudh really well, and what I was really proud of that moment was like, dude, finally, really handsome Indian guy. Southeast
Yes.
Asian, whatever. Like it's whatever you want to label
as
him.
as
As a love interest and super handsome, and he's not the you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
making fun. He's not the comedian, just a stand-up leading guy, right? I just want to see more of that for us.
Oh, totally.
Like
For
why,
Asian men and
yeah,
South Asian men,
why,
absolutely.
Why can't we be handsome? And by the way, why can't we talk about it? Because every time I talk about it or we want to, we seem narcissistic and very superficial, shallow. But I'm like, okay, then why do you keep watching Marvel movies, Asian community? You watch him because you want to see Thor take his shirt off. You see him because he's masculine and good looking and attractive to watch. Same thing with Captain America, Gal Gadot. But for some reason in the Asian community, nah, we're cool not seeing that.
Yeah.
We're cool.
I mean, it's wired in babies' biology that they will look longer at symmetrical faces,
Yeah.
right? Like whether you like it or not, when something's pleasing to the eye, it's pleasing to the eye. And I hate to say it, and maybe there's a small percentage of people that seriously they don't care. But most people, and so that's why you see in commercial films in general, they will pop in someone that looks a certain way because eyeballs like to look at it.
Exactly.
I don't like.
We're missing more of that in Asian Hollywood, by the way. I do believe we're missing more of that. Like we just want to look at somebody.
Yeah, you know what? I noticed that, and this is not to say that I think I'm like the hottest shit or anything. This is purely just like an opinion. Because sometimes I've said it and people are like, well, you're not modeling. But I'm not saying I should be a model. I'm just saying my opinion. Some of the actors, I notice a lot of them, I'm like, none of these are like really stunning
None of them.
people.
Nope.
I... all
Not
the-
many.
They're not, right?
There's here and there.
Like, just like, okay, she's pretty, okay, he's good, but not like the
Slightly
that-
above average.
That it factor, like holy shit. And some people they do have that.
Mm-hmm.
Our mutual friend Jessica Van, I think she has that. I just watched her Christmas movie, her HBO
great at
Christmas movie.
Christmas stuff.
No, I think she has that it factor. And some people they're just like, oh, that's more traditional, like Hollywood standards. And people are trying to. I like that there is more inclusivity now. I think there should be, but at the same time, that's not to make what was historically attractive to villainize that.
Oh yeah, Devon and I talk about this quite a bit. She should be on here with me, but as Asians in the Philippines, pretty people are celebrated. Here, Asian American Hollywood were villainized, shallow, talentless, everything, and so it's like, wow, like. Sorry, there's a lot of white actors who aren't that talented, but they look great. So they get chances, Big blockbuster movies. You watch a lot of the white people's audition reels from way back in the one. They were awful, But the thing is, they get better as they get more work. They do things. So, look, I know the risk reward. People in Hollywood don't want to put too much risk on new people, whatever's working. Let's just keep doing more of the same. But, that's where I think Devon and I come in and we're like, you know what? We see what you guys are doing. We'll build our own thing. There was this short film that we did that we want to turn into a long-form feature.
Yes. Which one is it? The Bare
It's
Knuckle?
awesome. Bare Knuckle. 2 stunning Asian male leads. nothing stereotypical, talented too, right? You also want to know that they're talented enough, right? By the way, when Asians don't say like, that's what really fucks me up with Asian community too sometimes, because it's like they're like, we're so about the A plus, a B minus doesn't work. But then, here's the thing, part of being an A plus is like you gotta have the look and the talent, right? So it's like, why don't we do both? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to be that A plus where it's like you got the look and the talent, These guys are very, very attractive guys, and they're in our movies that we want to do, and they don't know martial arts, but we train them a little bit, and if we get more funding, then we'll have real stunt people to do it for them. They're not going to speak a different language, and they're going to come in, just be their authentic selves and kick some ass and do a good movie. We want to do more of that. It's like, hey, Bradley Cooper from Limitless, like we could have put an Asian guy in there instead, like a good looking one, just as stunning, and we'll just put them instead. So we want to do more of that. And I think that's where we want to head, and that's what we want to do. We got the other representation. We got it. We got plenty, trust me, but we don't have ours, and so that's what we want to do, and we want to give ourselves a shot, at least.
Oh, I love what you guys are doing. I mean, you've always been a doer since I've met you. I met you shortly after you moved to LA. Do you remember that?
Like the first 2 weeks, I think, or 3 weeks.
I met you, and you were always a doer. You're always a yes person. I was helping a friend direct a music video, and I wanted an Asian, an Asian lead, and it wasn't paid, and you just said yes. And I liked that attitude because not everyone has that. Some people are like, well, like what's the pay? And I'm like, these little things pay off.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Eventually, you do start saying no to things, right? I mean, like, I think I remember, and don't want you to remember this, but you were like, hey, you want to come in again? I was like, I don't think it's the right time. Not right now. I mean, because it was like so fresh off of things. Like I was already on. I was like, I don't feel like I have much to share. Mm-hmm. I was like, we should do something when I feel like I have enough to share.
Totally.
So it's like you start saying no to things, or you delay things a little bit. But it's like, I'm always like that dude that wants to do things so much that like sometimes you can't stop me, and then I start doing other people's work. And then that's where Devon comes in. He's like, you hired this person to do this for a reason. Why are you like doing their work? I was like, that's a good point. I should back off, like let people do their job, know my place. And so like, I think for me, where it's definitely evolved since I've last seen you is like, yes, I still am that yes person. Not like, hey, can you read this script for me? Hey, can you help us? Sure. Let me see what I can do. Even if it's just like hey, let me connect you here and that's it. Or let me look over, give some whatever, like I can always make some time for that. I say that and hopefully it doesn't inbox too much, but it's like, there's a lot that we can do. And I often see a lot of that stuff that I say yes to is like, hey, that's a throwaway thing. Like I don't expect anything from it, And I just wish a lot more people would do that, because I think our community, Asian Americans especially, I think our community would be so much stronger. Like I think we're a little bit too much crab mentality still, like, look, I mean, people can interpret what I'm saying as crab mentality. I'm just like, no, you know what? I'm just going to do my shit then if I have to, I got to tell you, like, I just feel like the time hasn't been right yet. I'm sure it'll come, but it's like we're just paving our own niche.
It's funny you say that. It's funny when you're in it, because some people who are watching you might already think like you're where someone wants to be. You just went to the Philippines to promote your new film, Asian Persuasion. You're an actor. I mean, to be doing that, a lot of people will work for years, decades, and not have a break like that.
Trust me, 8 years ago, Kevin would have said the same thing about me. And like, look, when I look at my life, I have my dream apartment. Never thought I'd be able to have. I have my dream girl that I've always wanted. I have a career and a chance. I have more than I even asked for, like a beverage company, like, and it look, it's awesome. My family's still healthy. They're around. Dad just turned 70. Same thing with my mom. And it's like, I have nieces and nephews, and I'm like, yeah, I got everything. But there's still so much to do that, like, I guess I'm just one of those people that I see something that I want to amplify, and if I can't do that, then I'll just do it or try my best. Look, what I'm going to do is a shot in the dark. The likeliness of it succeeding is probably 1% or less. I'm well aware of that. But it's like I have no choice. There's just something in my DNA where I'm like, I can't stop. I can't give up because it's always led me to something. Gave up on acting for a little bit. It led me to Bling Empire. I was just about to give it all up. After Bling Empire, didn't give up. I got managers, got acting stuff. I got another TV show coming out next year. It is a unscripted one, but it's like, so is the game. It's my survival job doing unscripted stuff at this point, And, Asian Persuasion came out. Now it's like it's got some good audience feedback, and we're now doing more with that. And it's like we got other things going on. Got comic book IP coming out next year.
Nice.
It's like it's unbelievable. But it's weird because it's like, and this is just a theory of mine, maybe it's just showing how the wealth gap is just getting much bigger. Because despite all of this, we're still worried about what happens next year. If we don't make a single dollar, we're going to have to rethink about stuff, I'm fortunate enough to put it on perspective and say most Americans don't even live paycheck to paycheck. They don't even have enough for 3 to 6 months of their life. I'm like, well, this is my Asian side. I'm way smarter in the sense I'm like, I'm gonna save. I'm gonna make sure we're good for a little bit so we can pursue our dreams. But like, look, I hustle and do stuff. I take social media brand deals. Do I want to be doing that? Sometimes, but like sometimes it's just a paycheck. Because I have to put food on our table, rent, all that stuff, so I can do this other stuff. So I can show up to this podcast, and speak and do all these things, or wait till the next job comes up, or wait till my comic book comes out next year. Like all of these things while still building. And it's like, yeah, I do these side hustle jobs so I can do this. The last thing I want to do when I'm 80 is regret and be like, I didn't do this. Because I have one of those moments right now. I'm like, I regret not doing something that I turned down a year and a half ago. Won't go into details with it, but I'm like, that's the first time that I left something on the table. It wasn't a guaranteed thing, by the way, anyway, but it was just like, wow. First time ever, Kevin. Don't do that again.
Learning lesson.
Yeah. Don't ever do that again because I don't want to die when I'm 80 and be like, wow, I did it again.
That's good you got a glimpse.
I got a glimpse. I didn't really understand what people were talking about because I never, ever did that before. But like, yeah, it was the first time ever, and won't do that again for sure.
Okay, the last thing I want to talk about, the promise ring that you gave Devon. I thought, because I looked at it so quick, I'm like, they're engaged.
Everybody.
It's a promise ring.
Yeah, what's your opinion about a promise ring?
I think it's sweet. I think any female would be happy.
Did you read my comments?
I did.
There was a lot of females that wouldn't be happy.
People online are crazy, though.
Yeah, but they also don't know the full story.
But that's what they do, though. They take a snippet and then also you think about the people who take time to comment like that. Most people who are happy with their lives are out like living their lives, right? They're not looking for shit to hate on.
Right.
Right?
It's true. I guess I got some really wild fans. But like, yeah, I lost over 1,000 followers after I posted that.
Really?
Yeah, and look, I hear
They unfollowed you because you gave your girlfriend
a promise ring. Yeah, shallow. But like, here's the thing.
Wait, they said it's shallow?
No, I think it's a little shallow.
Oh, of them.
Yeah, I mean, because like, here's the thing. I actually thought I'd gain followers because I fulfilled my promise. 10 years ago, I told her I'd give her a promise ring that I couldn't afford. It was just going to be a blow pop ring. Like, truly, just a blow pop ring. And I actually was able to get her something of substance to give her a promise ring. Like, is that the end goal? Fuck no. Like, I'm a grown-up. I know that's not really the real thing. We promised each other we'd give this a shot, in a relationship, to be the actors in the Asian community we wanted to be and to build ourselves and a life together. Unfortunately, through addiction, that didn't happen, but now we got to, and so I wanted to fulfill that promise to her. And that's why it meant a lot for us. It meant so much for us that we were able to do it. And look, I mean, I get it. Some people don't like promises. They probably experience a shit ton of promises that didn't come true for them. And they're probably the ones that hate it. I'm okay with that.
It doesn't matter what you do. There's always going to be someone who doesn't like it. And with social media, which is such a gift because it's a free platform, we could build businesses and hear all sorts of opinions. But you also, with that, sometimes it makes me sad. I'm like, there's a lot of unhappy people in this world.
There is. And you know what?
The
I
ones
guess
we're hearing from.
Promise rings and this stuff amplifies it more for people.
I mean, some people don't like to see others doing well.
But I thought that's a very small few percentage, I thought.
I would like to think that. And that's why when I see if it's a lot of comment, I'm like, wow, these people are really unhappy. So it makes me more sad than anything.
Yeah.
But to me, how is a dude giving his girlfriend a ring? I can't see how that would be a negative thing to someone, but it is.
Yeah, I was shocked too. So here's the thing too. I was like, wow, I think that backfired a little bit. But here's the thing. We put ourselves publicly. We understand that.
It comes with it.
It comes with it. I'm okay with it. Doesn't affect our happiness one bit. Devon knows how committed I am, and
that's the most important.
That's the thing that matters the most. We have each other, and I'm saying this out loud because she reminds me too. Because sometimes you can get swept up in all this bullshit,
Totally.
That the only constant thing that's a guarantee in life is that we have each other right now. Mm-hmm. It's the only guarantee. And, she said this to me recently, and I'm just saying it out loud so maybe I can watch it again and just remind myself more. Because, look, we need reminders. We always need reminders at times. But, that's the only guarantee in life right now that I have. To bet on myself, to bet on her, to bet on us, and that we have each other. That's literally it.
You're so lucky to have that.
100%. But I also have somebody to remind me, Truly,
Okay, before we close out right now, oh my God, you have so many projects going on. So how can people support you? I know sometimes it can feel, do you feel weird promoting yourself ever?
No,
hey,
never
buy
feel
my
weird.
drink. Hey, go see my movie. Good. See, I like that.
Never
you
feel
should not
weird.
feel weird.
Well, the 100% way is just to follow on Instagram or TikTok, preferably Instagram, because I always, let people know what's going on. Mm-hmm. But, look, I got TV shows coming out next year. I have comic books. I have more, events going on. Just follow it and see if there's anything that you're interested in and you wanna be a part of. Shoot me a DM. Read the comic books, watch the TV shows, and that's a great way.
Buy his drink.
Yeah. Just don't unfollow me if I do more engagement stuff or whatnot. It's just weird. It's just weird.
And your movie, Asian Persuasion.
Yes. Watch my movie too when it comes out.
Do you know, for creators, how much we appreciate it, or even any small business, when you just or you subscribe, you leave a comment, you watch the things. It means so much, and it's
Totally.
it helps us a lot.
Well, it helps the racist algorithms. It's hey, the more Instagram or social media wants to see, see that people like this stuff, the more it'll happen.
Yeah.
I think unconsciously as Asians we forget. That's all. It's support our artists and people out there that we're fans of.
Yes, support each other.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.